It wasn't really a book. It was really part of a book that I read, which made a great impression on me when I was a teenager. It was a philosophical essay by Leo Tolstoy, Not Easy Time. I think he was writing about an experience. I think you all know that Tolstoy was came from a very rich family, Russian. And this particular essay, he was writing about his experience that he saw this beggar, on the streets. And then he followed this beggar because he just felt, well, how could I help this person? And then the beggar went to a community in which there were many, many, many beggars. And then the young Tolstoy then realized that he didn't know what to do with it, actually. That even if he gave away everything that he had, he could not eradicate poverty in the world. I guess even now, even recently, when you think of what's happening in Japan, many people are trying to collect donations, etc. But no matter how much we collect, there is still not much we can do. So it's that kind of helplessness that Tolstoy was feeling.
Well, I hate to appear to be different from my colleagues, but there isn't a book which fundamentally changes me. Quite the contrary, I think every book changes me. I get a bit of everything from every book, and I disagree with Agnes. I don't think there's ever a bad book. I've never come across one. I've come across books which appear to be boring, yes, but not a bad book. But even books which are boring at times, sometimes I put it down, I read a few pages or a few chapters and I thought it was really boring, I put it down. And next time, when my mood is different, I come back to it and pick it up, and suddenly, lo and behold, it suddenly becomes, a little bit more interesting. Just let me give you an example. I was given this book here by a very good friend of mine, my colleague in Edgecote, Margaret. It's a book by Joseph Stiglitz. I don't know whether you know him. He's a Nobel Prize winner, an economist. He helped the, if I'm not wrong, I think this administration, and is now helping Obama. It's a book called Globalization, Making Globalization Work. And when I got this book, I thought, God, gee, what a boring book to give me. And, I never quite liked economists. I'm sorry to say, I hope there are no economists here. Are there any economists here? No, I haven't offended anybody, but I really thought economists are boring people. So, but because I was given this book, and I felt really obliged to have to read it, because I fear that, after some time, Margaret would come and say, well, how's the book? And I would look at her and I said, gee, I haven't read it. That would really look embarrassing. So I started to pick it up, and, I didn't read from the beginning. I picked, a chapter in the middle of it and started reading it. And then I suddenly became really interested in the book. It's an eye-opener for me, because I then realized that even though he is simply, well, I said simply, that's not very good of me for me to say that. Although he's an economist, the way he looked at economy, particular world economy, is no different from the way that I look, except he looks at world economy from a wider perspective. He talks about nations getting together to promote democracy, to promote social justice, to promote the environment. And, it's very interesting. I have to say that, frankly, I still haven't finished it. There are a lot of books which I haven't finished. Again, quite unlike Agnes, she has a compulsion to finish books, and I have a compulsion not to finish books. I will pick one up, read a few chapters, put it down because I have no time, or I feel boring, and then I'll pick it up again. And hopefully one day I shall finish this book. But, there's a bit of everything in every book, and the message I want to give you is, don't be deceived by the cover. It sounds so cliche, but it's true. Don't be put off by the cover. Don't be put off by the name. Don't be put off by the first chapter. pick it up, read it, and if you feel bored by it, put it down, and maybe come back to it on a rainy day, and then you may find, there are interesting bits which can help change your life. Well, not entirely, but bit by bit.
Thank you very much, Ronny. And it's like meeting friends and knowing a person too. Sometimes first impression may not work. Sometimes you
Never
get
does.
to know
Never does.
for a longer period of time. Right, so I just couldn't help thinking about this because all three of you are writers. So other than, prolific readers, like reading a lot of work, you are also writers. So I'd like to ask you about when you are in your process of writing, it is sort of like a conversation with your audience. Right? To me, I don't know, because I am not quite a writer, not yet. I hope one day I'll be a better writer. I'd like you to share with us the process of your writing and how is your relation, your dialogue with the audience. How about this time we start with Agnes?
Okay. It depends on what I'm writing. Basically, I write two kinds of things. One would be academic writing, and then the other one would be poetry. A few stories, but not that much. When I'm writing poetry, I think sometimes they are actually directed at certain people. For example, I had a friend who lost a baby. So she was very unhappy, and she didn't know what to do. So she didn't know how to tell her relatives far away from Hong Kong. She's a foreigner living in Hong Kong. So I said, why don't you write it out? And then she said, no, I'm too unhappy. I don't know how to do it. I'm not like you. So I said, okay. So I wrote it out for her. And she used my poem to tell her relatives that her baby passed away. So there are that kind of poems when there's a very specific kind of audience. Then there are other poems which are actually written to the whole world, anyone who can understand English. And it's like telling a story to someone. For my academic writing, of course, the audience is very specific. It will be for anyone, usually a first-year student, I hope can read it. Even if it's a research book, I hope that it is accessible even to first-year students. So it's that kind of audience awareness.
Well, funny you should ask me that question. As a lawyer, actually, I write a lot. I write a lot of opinions, which I charge a lot of money. I can tell you, I charge a lot of money. The longer you write, the more you charge, actually. But I don't regard that as writing. And funny enough, being a legislator opened up a side of me which I never knew existed. The first time I write for something which I don't charge for is when I became chairman of the bar, and that was the reinterpretation of the Basic Law. And I discovered to my horror that when I speak to the public, nobody understands what I'm saying. Well, first of all, because I only, in those days, I only spoke in English. I was totally incapable of speaking a complete sentence in Chinese without sticking in an English word here and there, which now I try not to do at all. And it suddenly occurs to me that if I really need to explain to the people of Hong Kong what the rule of law is all about, I need to get down to a level where everybody can understand me. So I began to write in Chinese. I have to say that I was only up to Form 5 standard in Chinese, and I've never picked up a pen to write in Chinese for something like 30-odd years. And so you can imagine how difficult it was for me. I talked to a friend of mine who owns one of the newspapers in Hong Kong, and he very kindly gave us a column so that we write a piece every week. And I said to my ex-co member of the Bar Council, and I said, look, everybody have to write one piece per week, and we take turn. But somehow it always come back to me, because for some reason people just don't read, just don't have the time to write. And I was struggling with so much difficulty in those days, and I have to enlist help from people like Huang. He was helping me in those days before he's now the Secretary for Justice. And Alan Leung Gaki, his Chinese also is very good, much better than mine. And the two of them tried to teach me how to write in Chinese. And as I picked up, I suddenly realized that I actually like writing. And there came a time, I think it was in 2004, I think, Ming Bo came to us and asked me to write a column. And I said, no, I can't do it. But Margaret said to me, yes, of course you can. You know, you are natural, so just go and write.